Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the space. Today, we are going to be working on a special session, and it's all about there is wisdom in the challenge. So, if ever you're going through anything, which most people do, just know that it's not in vain. You may be going through something in order to get through, to get over, to find a new way around. So, learning how to navigate these scenarios, it's not just about some type of punishment for doing something wrong or making a wrong turn. Sometimes this is the journey to get to where you need to go. So in today's session, that's what we're going to be working on. So go ahead and take a deep breath. Exhale and release. Another breath. Exhale. One more breath. Exhale. And I would love to invite you to the MP community. That is our special community. It's free for everyone to join, and we host a lot of free workshops and events. So if you're looking for more support on a more consistent basis, that's where you'll find me. And if you want to reach me, that's how you can reach me. You can send me a message over there. So take another breath. Exhale and release. So right now, we're just working on calming your nervous system, making you feel nice and balanced, working on the intrusive thoughts, just relaxing. Oftentimes, it is very normal to build things up in our minds bigger than what they actually are. It goes both ways, honestly. Things are more scary than they actually are. And then we also think that something very get rich quick mentality is going to work. Do this one thing. Or what I see in the spiritual community is, oh, I want to manifest this thing just by manifesting it. Well, you're manifesting the opportunity to get it, but you still have to take the action. How are you going to manifest the opportunity and then just be upset? For example, when it comes to love, people wanting to manifest the right love, and then they're attracting, opportunities to say yes or no. This person doesn't feel right for you. Yes or no. But refusing to do that, not being able to trust themselves. You know what you like and what you don't like. If you're old enough, you know. At this point in my life, I knew. This is what I can and can't put up with. And I think what people realize, I guess the older that you get, what people continue to breathe, what people realize the older that you get is that, someone doesn't have to be a villain or evil or angry for them not to be in your life in any capacity, romance, friendships, even family, colleagues, whatever boundaries you need to navigate. They don't have to be the worst evil person. So I think because of that, especially when you're younger, but you can also establish this habit over time. I have to be the bigger person. No, you do not need to evade your boundaries and your sense of intuition. That's why people feel lost and they can't trust themselves. You have to trust that sense. It doesn't mean that a person is evil or angry or what. No, it just means that, that's not for you. You are not for them. There are some situations where you might be for them and they're not for you, or they could be for you and you're not for them. But regardless of the situation, you should really look at it from the perspective of, okay, this is a no for me. This is a no for me. And sometimes people change and they adjust, or, it's maybe just not the time right then and there. So for example, when someone is trying to manifest the love they want in their life, what might come into their life is those old cycles, because life is very cyclical. So they might continue to manifest the old stuff. You have to say no to the old stuff. And the way you demonstrate to life that you're ready for this new stuff is that you say no to the old stuff that isn't working. I heard a really, really good explanation a couple years ago, and they said that when you meet someone and they give you butterflies, or the way they described it was you feel like you've known them before. They said you likely have. You likely have dated this person over and over again, and here it is, you think in this new person that it's going to finally work out. when, there's nothing wrong with you being attracted to someone, making you excited in that kind of way. But if it's a familiar pattern and you just think it's going to be new and different, unlikely. I'll give you a dating story, my own dating story before. I had met this person and they were nice. She was cool. But then I noticed as we were dating, I was like, yeah, no, this is not going to work. She wasn't horrible. She was not even the worst relationship I've ever been in. There was a lot of things about her that could work, but I just knew myself. And I knew I didn't have the effort at this point in my life to work on that. I didn't. Quite explicitly, this person had not been in a long-term relationship before, and they were a little bit older than me. And, I'm already in my 30s, so I'm just like, no, not going to do that. Because even though this person was not bad or nothing, understanding that I needed to find someone who understood how to work in a partnership already in order to be successful. I did not have the energy in me to work through someone who had never been in a long-term relationship before, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up in dating that a person feels like they might be compromising themselves when it's really you're just used to living alone. And you have to learn that, when you take another person into consideration, it's not because you're putting your needs last. It's just, is that what feels comfortable to you? And the answer can always be no. People do not have to be in a relationship. They do not have to get married. They do not have to not have their alone time. But I think that they were not at that place. And so I learned very early on, the romance did not last that long. I learned very early on, okay, you know what? I'm going to end this here. And I think what life was presenting me was, wow, this person was so much better than the previous person that I was with, but I knew it was not right for me. And I had asked life, bring me the right person and I'll wait as long as I need to. That's really how I felt. The reason being is because I had manifested a person before, and I was very impatient. I was much younger than my 20s. I was very impatient, and the whole relationship, a long relationship, was filled with impatience. And so I learned from that experience, it's not worth it. Even if you feel alone, even if you feel sad, even if you feel lonely, it's not worth it. Be patient. Ask God to send you what you need. Ask life to send you what you need. Be patient. And in that moment when I said, hey, I'm going to wait. And at that time, I looked at my friends who were single and I was like, wow, yeah, I've been out here for a long time. I'm going to be out here for a while. I realized, okay, well, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to have fun. I'm not going to take anything too serious. I'm only going to take things serious if someone presents me with something that feels right and, it's reciprocated. So I enjoyed myself. I had a good time. I said yes and I said no. And it was much easier for me to navigate through those experiences to say, okay, this is going to work. This is not going to work. And just being able to clearly end things or move forward. And when I met my significant other, what was so lovely about her is that when I was thinking about her, she just brought me peace. It wasn't, I was very attracted to her, but it wasn't, oh, I felt like I've known this person several lifetimes. It was not that at all. It was just peace and enjoyment and dates. It was just those kinds of things. It wasn't trauma drama. It wasn't vices, where it's like you have a certain type that is a vice. So it's up and down, extremes. It wasn't that. It was just peaceful. And I could tell that she was a very similar person to me. And I could tell that we both are always being pulled to people who are who like our calm energy. And I'm like, we got to hold on to each other before one of these non-calm people try to get us. And so that's what happened and that's what worked. And the beautiful thing about it, and I've seen this in my life, not just in romance, but in other places where life has presented me a choice. Like I can vividly see it in my life. Life presents me with a choice and just gives me an opportunity to make the choice or not. Would you like to do this? Would you not like to do this? In a previous lifetime, I used to do suicide awareness and prevention programming. And so that became a very, very big theme in my life for a long time. But I remember the exact moment when I was 19 and I was standing in front of this building and I was supposed to go to this event. It was like where I would meet a lot of the people that I would eventually start working with. And I remember standing in front of the building and I thought to myself, well, I could go home. I could do something else. It was a very casual thing. Like I was like, okay, I'm just going to check this out. But something told me go. So I went. It was a very small event, but I felt so filled with purpose and so connected. And it was my purpose for maybe 5 or 6 years. I did a lot of programming. I worked with a lot of people, did a lot of events, did a lot of marketing events, did so many things that surrounded the topic to bring awareness. And in that moment, I could have easily just went home and it would have been fine, but something told me to walk in. And so those are those moments in my life that I remember of like, wow, that sets the stage for the next chapter. So I can say even that in a romantic way of me thinking about my partner and wow, that began to set the stage for a next journey. And the cool thing about when you set the stage for a next journey in your life is that the old things that used to trip you up in your past no longer apply to you. You can start to see through them, or you can start to see with more clarity. And when you do that, always give yourself grace. It is completely okay to give yourself grace for the decisions that you made before in anything. Even to this day, I'm very analytical thinker. I'm someone who likes to do a lot of planning. But I can also do overthinking, and I like to move very fast, and some things take time. So I can get impatient of but what always reminds me to mellow out is that, wow, I feel so much more fulfilled just doing a little bit each day. It checks me on my impatience or wanting to move so fast, but it also encourages me, and it also lets me identify, wow, I'm really good at pivoting or navigating obstacles. And I think because of that, I attracted many people with obstacles in my life, romance, family, friends, work, and they all relied on me heavily to help them navigate obstacles. But I realized that was too much on my nervous system. As a healer, it's interesting because within the healing capacity, I don't feel that way. Because I think as a healer, I have all of these really good boundaries set up in place for me, clients, and for students. But in your everyday life, where you have people who have always known you forever, who won't take your advice, but they like the way you make them feel. Because I was able to identify very early on that the gift that God gave me was the gift of calm. I try to be calm for myself, but I also make a lot of people feel calm, and I'm really good at explaining things out for them to make them feel calm. So whatever their problem is, I can really explain it very well. What I realized though, over time, I don't get this from my clients and my students though, but I get this from just regular people who meet me. They like that about me, but they have no intention of making changes. They then use me as a supplement. And I learned throughout life that if I am going to live out my full life, and this is for any healers here, if I'm going to live out my full life, or this is for everyone, honestly, I cannot always be encumbered by everyone else's problems just because I know how to help them navigate it. So I had to create more and more and more and more boundaries. And what is really cool about that is over time, it makes me appreciate the friendships, the family, the people in my life who respect those boundaries. And for those who reacted so strongly for me creating those boundaries, it let me know I needed to remove them out of my life or put them at a different place. And it is what it is. And I often have this conversation with my mother because me and my mother have opposite astrological nodes. My north node is in Capricorn, so my south node is in Cancer. Her north node is in Cancer, so her south node is in Capricorn. So there's many things that she likes about me that she thinks I should lean into. And I explained to her, no, just because you're able to meet someone where they're at does not mean you should. Sometimes that's enabling. And she has always been the type of person who wanted people to meet her where she's at. So she can like that about me. I probably get this from her, having to deal with her. But she can like that about me, always meeting her where she's at. But because that's my mother and she's one of those relationships in my life that we have grown to something I'd never expected. But I also say that spot only for her. I don't have the energy to do that much work with anybody else in my life. I don't. She got me young because she had me, but I don't have the energy to evolve with anyone else in the way that I evolve with her. But because of that, it makes her very appreciative later on, I guess now in life, that she sees that I met her where she was as she was going through her process. And so she often praises me for it. And I explain to her, I'm not doing that for nobody else but you, girl. And I'm not doing that for you now. Okay. Because I learned throughout time, just because what you do can be useful in other people's life, is it bringing you closer to what you need to do? So what I realized over time, the challenge there for me at least was learning how to say no to people, especially people who, appeared to me to be in very desperate situations. And I think healers have very big hearts, and it can make us feel very accomplished to help people navigate situations. But also I realized there were so many experiences I put on the back burner that I really wanted to do. Case in point, I remember when I was in college and I was supposed to do a study abroad in Taiwan. And I was, as you all know, I was a religious studies major. And so I got accepted to a program. Everything was paid for. I just had to pay for my ticket. And I was going to be staying at a temple. And I had a friend who had already went through the program, so everything was set up. And in that same time, I had a relative, my grandmother, my mother's adoptive mom, who she ended up having this really big accident, and I became her caregiver, and that became a big part of my life for many years and navigating that. But I remember in that moment, again, I was young. In that moment, I knew no one would be upset with me if I, said I couldn't do this. I was still a teenager. I wasn't even in my 20s yet. No one would be upset if I said I couldn't do this. I have older siblings too, by the way. I don't know how I ended up being the responsible one, but no one would be mad at me if I backed out, Also my mother, no one would be mad at me. But the way that I was looking at how things were being conducted, and I've had this personality my whole life, I said, out of the respect and reverence I had for my grandmother, I just felt like I could not leave her there. I didn't like how these adults were conducting themselves, It wasn't for her best interest. So I made the decision that, this was a life lesson for me to learn. I made the decision, I'm going to stop everything that I'm doing, within reason, of course, and I'm going to focus on her. And doing that built up confusion in me because it created both a sense of I'm happy to be there for someone I loved, but it also grew a lot of resentment. I worked full time. I had 2 jobs. I might have had 3, honestly. I went to school full time, and I was her caregiver. And I lacked so much support around me because I think people have always said to me, you're very strong, you're this, you're that. And I think because I rushed in, because I cared so much, it gave people reasons to kind of not try. And I realized that the lessons I needed to learn was I cannot always carry everyone's karma. So to bring it back to the original point, which is, going through life and attracting these people into my life with problems, they like me because I carried their karma for them, and I helped them through it. And I realized that I have a whole life to live. And so as I was caring for my grandmother, I thought she lived her whole life. She did many things. So I need to live my life too. And that's a very difficult place to be. Because it makes you feel like, you don't want to let people down that you love, or you don't want to make that sacrifice. But I realized that life was explaining to me, hey, you need to make this sacrifice for yourself. And so I did. I was riddled with guilt for years, but it was the right thing to do. And I think it makes me a better teacher. It makes me a better healer today. It lets me know how to clearly set expectations and boundaries with others. It allows me to not enable others as well, to be very clear with them. And I think it allows clients and students to feel very safe with me because I'm very certain about myself. I'm very certain about another person's ability to navigate their life and to trust themselves. So that built a lot of character within me. So all these challenges I was experiencing later on, I learned to not do that. I learned to say no. I learned to say, this is not my lesson to carry. And I can see now, when I carried so-and-so's lesson. And as I continue to sift through those things in my life just gets, I don't want to say easier because there's always a challenge. It just becomes more simple. It just becomes, wow, I didn't have to move heaven and earth in order to make my dreams and goals come true. Wow, I can just do a little bit each and every day, and that will be compounded. It might be difficult for the people who had to let me go. I had some very, very codependent people in my life, and they reacted very strongly to me disconnecting. But for the advice I would like to give to people, I would say this. If you act guilty, people will treat you guilty. And I always realize that I never like to see the people I love hurt. But the strength is if you didn't do anything to hurt someone, okay? Do not act guilty. Don't. That's the same thing as saying you do not meet someone where they're at. Y'all need to at least meet in the middle. Or if you know that you're stable, you're calm, you're peaceful, they need to meet you where you're at. If you're discombobulated, y'all need to meet in the middle. But I had to learn that, and I realized that many people were not willing to meet me in the middle. They weren't. They were very used to me in a certain way. So, with that being said, as you are navigating these obstacles and these challenges that arise in your life, just know that you can do it. Oftentimes it's not that complicated, but you must make sure your life is in order, because always being stimulated by situations that are overactivating your nervous system can make it so that when you actually start to work on yourself, it can feel tough. It can feel like an unsurmountable task. I had a friend one time, really lovely person, really lovely person, a fellow business owner, but they just complained all the time. And I am not the type of person that wants to hear someone complain all the time. I just don't. Because if someone complains, I like to maybe strategize with them of like, okay, what can you do? It's not about things being perfect. It's just like, this is how I feel. When things go wrong, I think about it like this. Man, this sucks. But this is what I'm about to do. Let's see how it works out. Then the next day you follow up and you just keep on going until you find what works. This person complained so much. They wore me down so much that I couldn't even continue to be around them anymore. Every time I talked to them, it was sad. They were going through something. They liked the way that I made them feel better. I would troubleshoot things with them. They would do none of it. And I was just like, look, I only have this energy for myself. And they never asked me to do that. That's just me caring for someone. And over time in life, I learned the lesson. I am not giving nobody unsolicited advice. If they're melting down, they can melt down. If they need a session, they can book me as a client. Okay, they could be a client, they could book me for their session. But no, I have to let people have their temper tantrums or, their meltdowns, because maybe that helps them. Maybe that helps them get to some clarity. And I think that South Node in Cancer is why I was so reactive, thinking of mothering energy, thinking of the energy of, needing to react to the needs in that moment. But my mother had a South Node in Capricorn, and she was motherly, like she really, really liked babies, but the way that she handled situations, a lot of times we really had to figure it out on our own. Okay. And I realized I'm able to be here today because I had to figure it out. So I think there's more nurturing and more structural ways to provide that environment for other people, for them to be able to figure it out without them freaking out. You guide people without enabling them, without hand holding them. And you essentially teach them how to fish as opposed to give them a fish, and they're better off. And I see it over my clients and over my students. I've been able to watch over the years. They just get better and better and better. And I remember in the beginning, everyone was in like such a vulnerable place. I just want to come in and just do it for them. But I had to take a step back and watch and just show up and be available. But just watch, just let them go through it and just watch. If they're having a low moment, let them go through it so that they can see that they made it and they're going to be able to come out to the other side. And now I get to see them grow and expand and just do so much over the years, but it takes time. Some people I've known for years. It takes time. And I remember I have one, they were an apprentice, but they have their own students now. But I remember when I met them, I said to them, okay, your journey is going to take maybe 5 years at best to get to where you want to go. And that was overwhelming for them because they felt like they were in a space of chaos right then and there. But I told them, but you're going to make milestones along the way and you're going to feel better before then. But you're thinking, I have to get to this destination in order to feel completely better. No, you're going to feel better along the way. Life is going to give the experiences. It's not even just going to show up in this energy healing subject. You're going to have life experiences. Life will give you all of the opportunities to correct your energy, to regulate your energy, to break curses, to get rid of things. Life is going to give it to you and it's going to feel not good. But once you get over it, you'll be able to navigate things like that easier. And they felt a little bit overwhelmed. But as I've watched them over the years, they're just a totally different personality. And it's not that everything in their life has magically become better. It's just they handle things better. And when you handle things better, you're able to make better decisions for yourself, regardless of how it feels in the moment. That is how you become successful. It's not that you magically feel like, oh, I no longer am plagued by these things. You're just able to make decisions best for you. No matter if you're feeling good or if you're not feeling good, the more you get used to making sound decisions, you have more confidence and trust in yourself. And then in the future, what ends up happening is you see the fruit of your labor. That's it. People just needed enough time to see things through. And I always tell my apprentices, y'all got to start thinking in decades. Stop thinking in weeks. I know everything online that's about manifesting is all about how to get someone and da 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 da. No, I'm going to tell you how to get it 100%. Start thinking in decades. Break things down into deliverable tasks that are very easy, ridiculously easy. Just do a little bit every day until you get more confident in your nervous system so you're not freaking out or feeling anxious. And then you can add a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And you will see results. Okay? That's it. Start thinking in decades. and that's what happens, a lot of the effort that I put in today, for me within these different communities that I have is all about making the experience better for clients and for students. But I already did the legwork before of understanding marketing. How do you set yourself up? How do you create consistent content? How do you understand the different platforms? How do you create your own platforms? How do you make the user experience? Blah, 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 all this stuff. I already did the work for that. So there's a lot of things I can do and I can navigate very easily and very quickly today that before just seemed like huge tasks. But let me tell you, those first 100 videos, honestly, it might be 300 videos when I think about it, I was very nervous. I'm going to be honest with you. I would think maybe the first 500 videos still created anxiety in me. 500 videos still created anxiety in me. What was the anxiety? I don't know. We try to name it. I don't think it's that. Sometimes it's like making yourself visible and putting yourself out there. Sometimes it's, trusting your technique and your ability. Other times it's, is this video going to come across the way that, it's going to get to the audience I'm looking for? Other ways is, I'm really trying to make a video that looks and conveys this feeling or this sense. I hope I'm able to do that. Yeah. And then once I understood my audience, once I understood social media, I started to just live in my own ecosystem. And now that I'm living in my own ecosystem and creating opportunities for other healers to come up in that ecosystem, I don't worry about none of that stuff. I don't care about none of that stuff anymore. All I care about is creating experience. Even creating this specific channel was just an opportunity of, I wanted to clearly talk to people, to give them knowledge, wisdom. And within Reiki Healing Hope, it's more of a relaxing ASMR experience. And talking whispers can be relaxing, but I got a lot of things I got to get off my chest to share with you that it's not for everyone. But if you're here listening, it is for you. So as a person who knows who they are, I know who I am. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm not going to do. That is what I am trying to pour into you, for you to get yourself to that place where you know who you are. No matter what happens, no matter what you have to navigate, you're going to create this thing or these things. So get comfortable with that and you just show up with that energy. Okay, everyone, I have been blabbling. I hope you enjoyed this session. I always like to start the session off with a healing type style to give you an opportunity to continue to do that as you're listening. But then I also like to just drop a lot of wisdom and knowledge. And I listened to everyone who said they missed how that was in Reiki Healing Hope all those years ago, about how I would just kind of, really, like I said, I was able to identify very early on. It's easy for me to, or I'm gifted in being able to explain problems to people to make them feel better. But after doing 5 videos a week for many years, I don't have anything else to say for in that kind of format style. And a lot of the reason why I repurposed the videos is because they're not, I'm not doing an astrological reading that's a certain transit. I'm saying things that as the human experience, we continue to go through it, So it doesn't need me to continue to produce 5 videos a week. It just doesn't. It's not, it's not the best use of my time. But instead, what I'm able to do is, you all can always reference those videos, but you can also come here and you can see me. You can see how I'm still very consistent in everything that I've been talking about over time. So you can see that it's not a fleeting thing. You can see that it works well. I try to give my life examples to just show that, look, it shows up in different parts of our life. And I always like to make the esoteric practical. If you take anything from this particular channel, it is just things are practical. We could do petition spells and rituals, but there's many things that you just go through in life that can break a curse. It can break a hex that actually has nothing to do with that in a spiritual, esoteric, or even religious way. It's really you breaking through things, really you being able to navigate through things. Now, these are things, if you really like these types of conversations, I would encourage you to go to the mpcommunity.com and join the free membership. I also have a paid membership called the Mystic and Body Community, where we do our healing sessions and other things like other resources that I create, but also the apprentices. And the apprentices that I have, this is the type of subjects that I like to cover, because things are not in life. It's not everything has its spot. Everything is merged. So that means you can go through something in life and still be working towards esoteric concepts. So it's learning how to apply these things we learn mentally into our everyday life. And we don't just have to take it into our energy healing sessions. We could take it into our everyday life, or we should always see ourselves as our first client. So if you enjoy the way that I explain things and the way that I teach, you might be interested in that. I open up the cohort at the beginning of the year, the summer, and the fall. And each of them have a cohort. There's some mixed learning too of different levels, but I like to create an environment where everyone can come in and learn. And so ReikiHealingHope.com has all of that information. It has all the dates. I'll be setting them dates up a year in advance. So if you see me as the type of teacher that you would like, I encourage you to look at that. Also, I create a hybrid format in which we have live sessions, but I also create a lot of materials that I put together in such a user-friendly way to keep you organized and structured. So one thing, I like to do in my journey as someone who has studied under many people who have experienced many different modalities is create a really good user experience and create quality materials and create a supportive environment, all of the critiques that I have of the esoteric, I try to create it better. No cult mentality, no guru mentality. It's not like that. And what I mean by a cult mentality is you have to do what we're doing. No, you have to find what is your best process. Organization, because a lot of powerful healers can be very disorganized because they might receive their best healing or their best intuition or their best message at inconveniencing times. And so they just lean into that but the way I do it is I try to create structure so that when you have those messages, you can be aware of how you come across to other people, meaning a certain level of professionalism. And the user experience. Are we talking about things that are really developing practitioners? Am I teaching practitioners so that they can be students for the rest of their lives, so that they know how do you navigate other modalities? How do you continue to learn? How do you apply these things? How do you learn how to navigate when you should apply this technique or that technique? So I take pride in doing that. And yes, so I hope you enjoy this session, and I will see you next time. Bye.